Welcome to StoryLearn English. In this story, you will enjoy a calm and inspiring journey told in simple English. By listening, you can improve your English naturally, relax your mind, and learn how small daily steps can create meaningful change. Stay with the story, listen peacefully, and let every minute help you learn and grow. Take one small step every day. Every morning, before the city fully woke up, the narrow street outside Daniel's apartment remained quiet. The shops kept their shutters closed, the buses had not yet begun their loud routines, and the air carried a calm that disappeared as soon as the sun climbed higher. Daniel liked this hour. It was the only time when the world seemed to move at a pace he could understand. Daniel was not someone people described as talented or exceptional. He was ordinary in ways that often felt heavy. At school, he had struggled to keep up. At work, he felt invisible. While others spoke confidently in meetings or learned new skills quickly, Daniel often needed more time. He noticed everything he lacked far more clearly than anything he had. He worked as an assistant at a small printing office. The job was simple but repetitive. He arranged papers, checked orders, and followed instructions carefully. His coworkers were polite but distant, busy with their own ambitions. During lunch breaks, they talked about promotions, online courses, and future plans. Daniel usually listened quietly, nodding, pretending he understood their excitement. Inside, he felt stuck. He wanted to improve his English, learn new skills, and feel confident speaking, but every attempt ended the same way. He would start with energy, download learning apps, buy notebooks, and promise himself that this time would be different. After a few days, sometimes weeks, he would miss one session, then another. Slowly, the habit would disappear, leaving behind disappointment. One evening, after a long and tiring day, Daniel sat on his bed staring at an open notebook. The first page was clean and hopeful. The rest were empty, like silent reminders of unfinished efforts. He closed the notebook and sighed. The thought came again, as it often did. Maybe he just wasn't the kind of person who improved. That night, unable to sleep, Daniel stepped out onto his small balcony. Across the street, an old man was sweeping the sidewalk in front of a closed shop. The movement was slow, steady, and unhurried. The streetlight cast long shadows as the broom moved back and forth. Daniel noticed something strange. The old man didn't seem rushed or tired. Each movement looked simple, almost effortless. He swept a small area, paused, then continued. Daniel watched for a long time, unsure why the scene held his attention. The next morning, the thought stayed with him. On his way to work, he passed the same shop. The sidewalk was clean. The old man was gone. The change was small, but it was real. That day at lunch, instead of scrolling on his phone, Daniel opened his notebook again. He didn't write big goals or long plans. He simply wrote one sentence: "Today I will learn one new English word." It felt almost foolish. One word seemed too small to matter, but it also felt manageable. He opened his phone, searched for a simple word, and wrote it down with its meaning. He read it once, then twice. When lunch ended, he closed the notebook without pressure. That evening, he didn't feel proud or excited, but he felt something new. The notebook was no longer empty. The next day, he repeated the same action. One word, no more. When a voice inside him suggested learning 5 words, he ignored that. When another voice said one word was useless, he ignored that too. He focused only on the small promise he had made. Days passed quietly. Some days were easy. Some days he felt tired and almost skipped his one word. On those days, he chose the simplest word he could find. The rule was not quality or difficulty. The rule was consistency. After a week, Daniel noticed something unexpected. He looked forward to the moment he opened his notebook. It had become a small anchor in his day. The pressure he used to feel was gone. There was no fear of failure because the step was too small to fail. At work, nothing changed immediately. He was still quiet in meetings. He still made small mistakes. But inside, something shifted. The feeling of being completely stuck began to loosen. One afternoon, a coworker asked him to help with a customer who spoke English. Normally, Daniel would find an excuse or stay silent. This time, he hesitated, then spoke slowly. His sentences were simple. His pronunciation wasn't perfect, but the customer understood. When the conversation ended, Daniel felt his hands shaking slightly. No one clapped. No one praised him, but for Daniel, it felt like crossing a small bridge. That night, instead of stopping at one word, Daniel felt tempted to do more. He stopped himself. He remembered why his past attempts had failed. Too much, too fast. He wrote the next word and closed the notebook. Weeks turned into months. The notebook filled slowly, page by page, word by word. Some words repeated. Some were forgotten and relearned. Daniel didn't mind. Forgetting no longer felt like failure. It felt like part of the process. He added one more small habit. Every day he spoke one sentence out loud, just one. Sometimes in the mirror, sometimes while walking to work. The sentences were simple and often imperfect, but they existed. That was enough. His life did not suddenly transform. He did not receive a promotion overnight, but people began to notice small changes. He asked questions more often. He smiled more during conversations. He listened with less fear. One rainy evening, Daniel returned home soaked and tired. He considered skipping his habit just this once. The old, familiar excuse whispered to him. He stood near his desk for a long moment, then opened the notebook. He wrote one word, closed it. The relief that followed surprised him. He realized then that the habit was no longer about learning English. It was about keeping a promise to himself. A year passed. The notebook was thick now. The first pages looked simple, almost childish. The later pages were more confident. Daniel sometimes flipped through them, not to study, but to remember how far he had come. One morning, the printing office announced an internal opportunity for a customer communication role. Daniel read the notice twice. His heart beat faster. The old fear returned, loud and familiar. He almost walked away. Instead, he remembered the sidewalk across the street, the steady movement of the broom, and the notebook filled one word at a time. He submitted his name. The interview was not perfect. He paused often. He searched for words, but he spoke honestly. When it ended, he felt calm. Whatever the result, he knew he had taken the step. Days later, when the manager called him in, Daniel listened quietly. He was offered a trial period, nothing guaranteed, just a chance. That evening, Daniel walked home under the soft light of the street lamps. The city felt the same, but he felt different. Not stronger, not faster, just steadier. On his desk at home, the notebook waited. Daniel opened it and wrote one more word. He smiled softly, understanding something clearly now. Change did not arrive loudly or suddenly. It came quietly, through small steps taken every day. Outside, the street settled into silence again. Somewhere nearby, a broom moved slowly across the pavement. And inside his small room, a simple habit continued, one small step at a time. As the day comes to an end, remember that progress doesn't need to be loud or fast. Sometimes it moves quietly, through small efforts made consistently. If this story brought you a moment of calm or helped you see your journey a little more clearly, then it has done its job.
Thank you for listening. Stay patient, keep moving forward, and we'll meet again in the next story here on StoryLearn English.